Johnny Rowe. Let's have a go. Welcome back, everyone. Jack Reeve, Talk Norwich City. What a way to spend your Friday evening. It was never in doubt, was it? Norwich City going away from home, picking up all 3 points. A David Wagner tactical masterclass. Sort of. Norwich City have won this game 2-1 against Hull City. Goals from Johnny Rowe and Christian Fasnacht. A late consolation from Morton for Hull City. Norwich have soaked up pressure, weathered a storm and somehow walked away with all 3 points. Just when you think Mr. Wagner is on the canvas, fully knocked out, blood from the nose, bloodshot eyes, black eyes, broken limbs, he finds a way to get up, resurface and stand tall. Norwich are up to 8th in the Championship, just 2 points off of the playoffs. This was... let's go back to the start and let's look at the lineup. And I must say, I think from all of the players we have to pick from, this is probably the strongest 11 we've got. Angus Gunn in goal, Stacey at right back, a defensive partnership of Duffy and McLean, Nunes in at left back, Nunes and Sarah, and then Sainz out on the left, Rowe on the right, Barnes in behind, Josh Sargent. Great to see Josh Sargent back starting games. Yes, he didn't complete the full 90, but looked really sharp when he was on the pitch. A couple of good saves from the Hull keeper. So fair play to him. I like that midfield pairing of Sarah and Nunes. Fair play to McLean, he slotted in at centre-back brilliantly. Norwich were under the cosh from the off. And look, I think before we get into any of this, it's worth noting I'm just enjoying the win. Like we'll talk about the bigger picture stuff maybe later on in this video, and definitely in the podcast next week. But for now, let's just enjoy Norwich City winning a football match on the telly, because that is great fun and we should definitely celebrate that, irrespective of what you think of ownership and manager. Let's just embrace the win for now. But starting 11, strong. I think that's probably the strongest 11 we've seen for a long while because of injuries and various happenings. So that's great. And Norwich, I think will find themselves relatively fortunate that one, we weren't down to 10 men, and two, that we weren't a goal behind. Nunes, I think, very lucky not to have seen red for an elbow. Well, an apparent elbow. It certainly looked that way from Nunes, so he'll find himself fortunate. And a challenge from Gunn on Connolly that ended up putting Connolly back onto the substitutes bench. It was a very heavy challenge from Gunn. To be fair to both of them, they're both looking at the ball. Angus Gunn somehow wins the free kick. I don't think either of them have done anything wrong, but really felt for Connolly. He hit the deck incredibly hard. They're always really nasty, those ones where they kind of get winded mid-air and then fall awkwardly, and necks and heads are just landing in places where they shouldn't. So I desperately hope that Connolly is all right. And that was a big miss for Hull, because he's, incredibly sharp, and probably aside from Carvalho and Twine, one of their best players. So that was fortunate, let's say, for Norwich City. Looks like we're probably going into the half-time break at 0-0. I thought we were fairly defensive and passive, and then up pops Johnny Rowe, who'd been fairly quiet up until that point, but what an astonishing goal from Johnny Rowe. Picks it up fairly deep into the... basically picks it up just in front of the halfway line and dribbles, finds his way through. It's a beautiful finish on the outside of the boot. And how many times this season have we seen Johnny Rowe have, probably in the last couple of months since his return from injury, he's been fairly quiet in large parts of games, but will just pop up with a bit of quality. And in this division in particular, there's not many players capable of that. And those that can do that often get moves to the Premier League, or just are the shining light in games. And Johnny Rowe has done that so often this season. You look at Ipswich away, but is the one that probably pops to mind. Even Hull at home, that he kind of broke onto the scene with his goal, basically on the stroke of half time in that game where we were 1-0 down. First game of the season, pops up with a real bit of quality, completely flips the game on its head. It's the same again tonight, and we're in a position now where we can demand a hugely significant fee for Johnny Rowe if we want to, and I'm sure there's going to be people interested. You're looking at probably bottom end Premier League teams who are seeking survival, that will be sniffing around attacking players, English. He's got it all going for him in terms of a Premier League move. I'm sure a bid may well come. You would hope that Norwich can bat it away, but he certainly added a few million quid to his price tag this evening. Second half, much of the same, all Hull. Just looking at the stats, Hull had 67% of the ball. They had 19 shots compared to our 9. All of the stats in their favour, but weathered storms, some good defensive work. I thought Angus Gunn was astonishing, made some really good saves. They were slightly unfortunate, hit the bar, I think, from is it Ozan Tufan. So, luck went our way. You earn your luck. We've had plenty go against us this season, so nice to be on the receiving end from it. And you're thinking, okay, if we can close out a 1-0 here, like happy days. Onel Hernandez, who'd been subbed on, actually looked really sharp, came on, kind of went one-on-one and missed that opportunity. It was a difficult chance. And you're going, oh, here we go. And then comes up with a sumptuous cross into Christian Fasnacht. He sort of bundles it in. And again, Fasnacht's one of those that, being a bit of a super sub this season, scored a fair few goals off of the bench, particularly in the away games this season. He's been really effective, so fair play to him. And it wasn't over at that point. Even scoring in the 88th minute, Morton scoring late on, who looks really sharp. Actually, this Hull side's got plenty of quality, and you can see why they are in the division. Tufan, Twine, Carvalho, they've got a couple of injuries. They've got Morton in the middle of the park. An attack-minded side under a really good manager who I'm slightly disappointed with Hull tonight. I mean, they were unlucky. I think they'll be desperately disappointed that they didn't get something from this game. But he expected a little bit more from them. And I think it kind of, very much plays into this narrative, doesn't it? That, this league isn't all of that. I think you've got 3 or 4, good sides at the top: Ipswich, Southampton, Leeds, and Leicester. And then other than that, I'm not really, West Brom looked decent when we played them. They weren't astonishing. And then in 6th place, it's Sunderland, who I haven't been overly impressed with. Norwich now just 2 points behind them. Granted, West Brom and Sunderland have a game in hand. So still very much in the mix. And you just look at this season and you go, God, if we'd have won some of the games that we should have done. I'm looking at, Millwall in particular in recent weeks, and our home form has been stinking. We would be in the playoffs with absolute ease. And I do find it's slightly more difficult to, criticise and, David Wagner after wins, because I don't want to come on here after a win and be all doom and gloom and, we've still got to change the head coach. Of course we do. Like, we know that, and you know that. But I don't want to get caught up when we're winning games of being down about it. I want to enjoy these evenings, and that's what I'm going to do. I thought Hernandez came on and looked really, really sharp. Look, right, we know the quality Rowe has got. I've been, continually impressed with Angus Gunn this season. And I think when we talk about players that we might lose if we weren't to get promoted this season, I think Rowe and Sauer are the obvious two. I'm not hearing much about Angus Gunn, but every time I watch Angus Gunn, I think, boy, this man should be playing in the Premier League. He is an exceptional goalkeeper. And if it wasn't for him this season, we would be far lower in the division than we actually are. I think he's a absolutely sublime goalkeeper at this level and can definitely cut his cloth in the Premier League. So yeah, an unexpected win. I did have a weird feeling about tonight that we might get something. I messaged a few mates earlier and said, it would be typical Norwich and typical David Wagner to pull something out of the hat tonight, and that's exactly what they've done. And yeah, if there were kind of Delia out banners unveiled by fans before the game, and that doesn't change after a scrappy 2-1 win at Hull City. But it is very strange seeing that kind of messaging, and rightly so. People are very much entitled to their opinion, and you can understand why people have the thoughts that they do about the ownership. And then kind of the jubilant scenes of fans, lapping up the players at the end. It's such a contrast in emotion, and just adds to the complete confusion of this season. Why are we where we are? where do we go coming forwards? Just when you think you've got it all figured out, they just throw another spanner in the works to just throw you off scent slightly. It's a very confusing time to be a Norwich City fan at the moment. But look, Norwich have a chance, and a real chance of playoffs, if we can maintain the fitness of our better players in Josh Sargent and Johnny Rowe and Gabriel Sarri. If we can keep hold of said players, and you never know, we might be able to add one or two. It is a division where there are still 2 playoff spots, I would say, up for grabs, and very much within touching distance. Norwich have a huge decision to make in terms of the next few months, because they know that they're still within reach of the playoffs. They've stuck with David Wagner this long through thick and thin, so you can't imagine they're going to make a change soon. But you just think, imagine with a fresh impetus and a forward-thinking manager, what this squad could achieve. Now, I think Norwich are probably still of the belief that, at least for this season, Wagner is the man. But I just wonder where we could be with a fresh vision on things. That's the thing that's kind of picking away at me at the moment, and I'm sure will continue to do so over the coming weeks. Look, next week looks difficult as well. We've got that trip to Bristol Rovers in the replay that we really could have done without, and then it's a home game against West Brom. Now, if you beat West Brom, suddenly you start to dream a little bit, and then what position are you in? Are we still calling for Wagner out? Because, the neutrals are looking at us going, what on earth are you talking about? You're in the playoff shout. You're scoring goals. We know what we're on about, and we're the ones that have to watch the football week in, week out. But boy, does this side continue to confuse. Look, it was far from pretty tonight, and they rode their luck. But fair play, a couple of bits of quality, a great cross from Ronald Hernandez for the second goal, a moment of brilliance from Johnny Rowe, some sublime saves from Angus Gunn contributed to a win this evening. And how often this season have we seen these wins away at Bristol City and Cardiff and Hull, just as you think time is up for Wagner. He is the man that just keeps standing up and confronting the critics when he needs to. He really is a man that is seemingly not giving up, and fair play to him. A shout out to Ashley Barnes as well. Actually, just saw his face pop up on my starting 11 there. I thought he was excellent in terms of doing the dirty work, winning the ball high up the pitch, and just relieving pressure. That's what I expected when we signed Ashley Barnes, and we've seen parts of it, but I think we've seen enough of it. I thought that was one of his better performances in yellow and green this evening. Look, I would love to know, one, what you made of the game, but more importantly, number two, where does that leave your thoughts on the rest of this season going forwards? We're very much in the midpoint of this season now. We're at crossroads, it feels like. You can go one of two directions here. I'm still very much in the direction of changing head coach and going at it that way. I don't think it can get any worse. But just as you get in those grasps of the playoffs, and there's still plenty of time in this season, it does make you think, there are decisions to be made. Is it stick with Wagner? And I think that's the opinion of the club, and I think that's what they want to do. Or do you, I don't even think it's a risk. I think you can make the change in the knowledge that, I think you've got a better chance going forwards, but does throw it all up in the air a little bit, I think, in terms of the club anyway. Norwich City have beaten Hull away from home 2-1 on a Friday evening, and we've got the whole weekend ahead to look forward to. If you want a Johnny Rowe t-shirt, the link's in the description for that. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all again very soon. We've got the podcast coming on Monday. Buzzing to get into that. Thanks very much, everyone. Bye-bye.